Hey y'all, what's up? This is STORYHIVE on location in Vancouver with Van City, Beats, Eats, and more. I totally forgot which more we were
I
going
also
to do.
forgot. And more.
And more.
Yeah.
I'm Kazi, the host of this show. We are broadcasting live right now on the unceded ancestral lands of the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nations, what is colonially known as Vancouver, BC, and what we call Van City. On the hot seat, aka the couch, aka your couch.
It is my couch.
Today, I'm joined by Katria, aka Muse, or Calgary mother Katria Gvasalia Basquiat. She's a Thai-Canadian dancer, artist, and designer based here in Van City with roots in Calgary and Thailand. Katria's work moves across street and club styles, Thai classical dance, and the North American ballroom scene, always grounded in care, cultural storytelling, and creative connection. I love that. Keep the hands going. She's also helped grow the ballroom scene in Alberta as Calgary mother of the Kiki House of Gvasalia and a member of the House of Basquiat. Beyond the dance floor, she's a multidisciplinary creator blending sound, design, media, and curation. A recent media arts grad from Emily Carr University in the program of New Media and Sound Arts with a curatorial practices minor, Katria now turns her full attention to performance, creation, and building spaces of joy, resilience, and cultural exchange. We're diving into her creative journey today, so let's get into it. Can you tell us a little bit more about the program that you just graduated from, and what you studied in these last 4 years?
Really interesting. I will do my best.
Yeah.
It's a pretty new program as far as I'm concerned. I was going to apply sooner, but I didn't want to be the guinea pig of the program, so I waited and just worked out for a little.
That's
little
actually
bit in Calgary.
smart.
Yeah, it's New Media and Sound Arts. It's pretty vague, but also very specific at the same time. It includes anything from like circuitry and coding to music production to sound arts, which is honestly, Google it and you'll know what I mean. So a lot of like coding-based artwork and sculpture and those kinds of things.
And which area did you find yourself really exploring at this time?
It's really interesting because I joined it thinking about music production specifically.
Oh.
I ended up now I'm doing an artist residency with Form, the Festival of Recorded Movement, and I'm doing a lot of circuitry and coding and learning more about that. I have a mentor named Christian Gonzalez right now who also works with Eric, actually.
Yeah.
So shout out to Eric.
I've seen their work. Awesome.
And it's gorgeous. So we're working with an LED cube. I soldered like this 4,000 or more like LED cube by hand and took that to Toronto recently. So I'm falling into this coding and circuitry realm despite having gone into it thinking I was going to produce music and do sound and mixing and mastering, which I still can do, but we're focused over here right now.
Where did this interest come from for you?
Like sound or?
I guess let's start there, but
Yeah.
also then to choose this path of the program, but sound.
Sound. I've always liked music from a young age. My mom would blast like Mariah Carey and then intermittently like really fun Thai music that has actually this is a total side tangent. There's a study about like bachata and Southeast Asian music specifically because of the rhythms and it's really interesting. I was going to do a master's in ethnomusicology. I was thinking about it. So that's nerding out on music and sound really deeply. Masters are expensive. So we'll see where that goes. But it's kind of like music is at the core of everything I do. And I also just like certain noises. So I did band in junior high and certain notes I would play would just ring really well. And I'm always like, what's that about? I need to know what that's about. And if I can recreate that, or when I started clubbing, I stand beside the subwoofer. Horrible for my like ear health.
You just
my
need
eardrums,
to just get some ear loops or something
right?
like that.
I shall do that eventually.
I've started wearing them.
Smart.
Epic. Changed my experience of longevity at the club. This is how I'm going to keep clubbing for the rest of my life.
Longevity at the club. Correct. Because I would just stand by the subwoofer because I loved how it felt. I do like how it sounds, but how it feels, I think, is what really resonates for me. And as a dancer, that made sense, too, because I would move according to how I felt with the music as opposed to necessarily what I was hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a resonance, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, because music is vibration. We are vibration. And like vibe, recognize vibe.
Vibe.
Sidebar, thank you so much for the Thai tea.
Anytime.
And for being Thai, because that is one of my favorite cultures.
Thank you.
Truly, like, that's actually, in terms of like going to Southeast Asia, that is one of the next places on my list.
You should.
Let's go to the beginning, girl.
The beginning.
Yeah.
My conception?
No, let's skip that part.
Gotcha.
Let's get to the part where, you was born.
I was born, yes, in 1999.
Oh my God, in 1999.
I'm a baby.
Right into the millennium.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, especially in your culture, you were born in Calgary?
Yes,
Okay.
I was.
And how was that growing up half Thai in Calgary?
It's an interesting time.
Yeah.
So, as we know, Alberta's a pretty conservative state. And by state, I mean province.
Yeah, it's Canada.
But if you think about how conservative they are, state.
Yeah.
It was relatively okay, I think. I think it was still, I think from what I remember, the mixed marriage was still kind of jarring a little bit during my parents' time, as far as I know. Growing up was relatively chill. There was a moment, though, where I was like, oh, I'm like, not white. And that moment was really funny for me.
Which was what?
It was like preschool.
Yeah.
I was in preschool and we were all talking, as kids blab. And I'm like, well, I'm just like you. And she's like, you're not. And I went, whoa, I'm not. So that was an eye-opening moment. It wasn't really like a harmful moment for me necessarily, but I think it did make me go like,
I'm different.
Yeah, when you realize you're different at a young age, that poses a very different experience for you moving forward. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because had I moved forward thinking I was a white woman,
How was your Thai culture, I guess, prevalent in your life growing up?
My mom is aggressively Thai, especially when she got to a foreign country, and in the best way. So she made sure my brother and I spoke the language. Reading and writing kind of took a backseat, but I'm working on it now. But relatively fluent, I would say. And then she also got me into traditional Thai dancing. So
since you were 6.
Yeah, since I was very young. And it's not like at like an extremely professional scale. It's very much community, and just like the families in Calgary got together and we'd celebrate like Songkran and Logatong, which are like Thai New Year's and all of these cultural events, and we would dance there for all the Thai people that were in the city at the time.
That's amazing.
So there was this little like squad of half Thai, half Canadian kids that just rocked around together, and then we were just dancing our way through.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, within Thai culture, like, and in your family, do other people do the classical dance?
No, as far as I know, there's no like mandatory. You don't have to learn it. From what I remember, it is in school curriculum as far as I'm concerned, because my mom grew up doing that too. I don't know if the curriculum's the same. I'd imagine it is. I think from what I know, from what I gather, is that in school you learn it. I'm obviously, because we were born in Canada, I didn't get the same treatment because my hands aren't as flexible as they probably could be.
What do you mean the treatment? What's the hands?
So
for anyone who doesn't know.
In Thai dance, you have to have these flexible fingers, and the way you stretch it is like you just manhandle yourself till it works. But as far as I know, it's not like a mandatory thing, but a lot of kids do it. I do think learning it in Canada was a bit of a special case, all in all. My mom was very much like, you are Thai, and you will be Thai. And I'm like, we are Thai, and we will be Thai. Yes!
As you should be, and as you should embrace that. Like, shout outs to your mom for really
to my mom.
Instilling that. Correct. And being able to speak the language, because that, unfortunately, but that is because I lived in Mexico. I speak Spanish better than I can speak Tagalog, which is Filipino language.
Yeah.
And like, the Spaniards are our colonizers. So like, I know the colonizer language is better than...
Give yourself grace.
It's fine. Yeah, we
You're
know.
multilingual.
It's...
That's already a big check off, like...
Yeah.
You're
it's
so
true.
smart. Don't worry
it's
about
true.
it. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, speaking Tagalog, that was a sore point of like, especially when you meet other elders, and either they are like, oh, your English is so good, and there's like a pride around that because, you can get ahead in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Or it's the opposite, where they're just kind of like, oh, it's a shame. Like, it's a shame you don't know your language.
They kind of almost like invalidate your
culture.
Like your Filipino-ness.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't like that part necessarily.
Yeah.
I do encourage people to learn their mother tongue, because I think that's It's just good to have. There's so much deeply embedded in language for culture specifically too, like certain contexts and cues that you will miss if you don't speak the language.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you less of what you are, but I feel like it makes you know a little bit less about yourself is kind of the way that I see it. Yeah.
Can you elaborate? What do you mean?
Like I feel like for me being Thai, because I speak the language and I know it, I feel like I have access to more of who I am or
Yes.
what my lineage was, which makes me, like, I guess, more in touch with myself and why I think and the way I do things or why I believe this, because I think that is all passed down.
Can we talk about how you got into street dance?
So it's funny, my parents enrolled me in a ballet class.
Okay.
It did not go well. The issue was I wanted to wear a tutu in the class.
Yeah.
They said no.
But it's ballet.
That's what I
That's
said.
appropriate.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Granted, this is way younger. I did
Okay.
ballet when I was like, and by did ballet, I was there for 30 minutes tops. I think I was like maybe 8 years old.
Okay.
And then from there, I left that class and went to the class across the way, which was a theater class, which then ended up having me go to a dance studio now. I'm like 13 to do musical theater. I was the seaweed in The Little Mermaid going, under the sea, under the sea.
You know, being a seaweed and how wavy it is sounds appropriate to
I
me.
really felt
that's how you got casted.
Pop and Pete really just,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Yeah.
But it was that, and then I was also enrolled in a breaking class and a funk styles class, whatever that meant for that studio at the time.
Yeah.
And my first style technically was breaking. And
Who was your teacher?
His name's TKO Tyler. He's from Calgary. It's really funny because I remember in his class him trying to get me to do a baby freeze, and I looked at him and I said, no. And he's like, why are you here? And I'm like,
You're like, I don't put my face on the
the
ground.
ground.
That's literally what I said. About breaking.
My breaking arc continued later. I don't know that it's ever going to be a style that I do. I would love to.
Top rocks, baby. Rocking's sick.
I will rock down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really just loved hip hop and R&B. That was just listening to my mom do like karaoke growing up. It was kind of like a genre that was already familiar to me at that point. My mom loved singing the Minnie Riperton, like, that was her, because then she'd try to hit that note.
song.
Love it, so funny. And then Killing Me Softly was one of her
Your
favorites.
mom sounds like a vibe.
She's that girl. She's also in my house,
What do you mean?
in the house of Gvasalia.
Really?
Yes.
I never knew that.
She walks best dressed. She walked Face, Runway in Calgary's earlier
The
days.
mother of the mother.
The mother of the mothers in the
Oh my
house of two mothers.
gosh. I
Yeah.
love that.
So she's really involved in the things that I enjoy doing and has never been weird about the kind of queer aspect of things, or even the kind of ballroom to me it's a sexual liberation thing. And
Yeah.
in many a way, and if you search it up, you know. There's moments that I think an Asian mom would loathe.
Yeah. Or be like, throw on this robe.
You're never gonna get a job. She's never done that to me. She's always been like, if it's for a performance, you can do anything. So that's always been nice. But yeah, so because I liked the music genres already, and there were already things that were quite familiar to me when I signed up for breaking and funk styles, I was like, I like it because of the music.
Yes.
I didn't realize I had to put my face on the floor necessarily. Like, I knew that you had to, but I didn't know that I had to.
Yeah. You're like, you could do that.
Diva since day one, fully. It's never not been a thing.
Yeah.
But then in funk styles, it's funny because then this dives into my deeply hidden roots of being a K-pop fan in my youth.
Oh my gosh. Not surprised.
Not surprised either. I used to be into like a group called Deuce, and then that evolved into like Shiny and all these other groups. Shiny's pretty good. The song Replay,
Yeah.
an R&B gem. An absolute gem. If any like American artist, then I think it would have went poof. It's a great song. I will show it to you later.
Yes,
but
please.
There's this one. This is when my whacking arc came in. There's a song called Roly Poly by Tiara,
Yes.
and they did this in their K-pop choreography. And this is around the same time that I'm doing these styles at this little studio in
Right.
the city.
This looks more locking vibes to me.
Right? But the way they do it is so like,
Oh, okay.
right? And I did that in class once, and the teacher teaching the funk styles was like, you should try whacking. And I was like, yeah, whatever that is. Because I'm like, what, 13? I don't...
Yeah.
But then
like whacking.
14, I moved to a different studio that was like hip-hop focused. And there was like a whacking, voguing class. And my mom took my first class with me. And then everything from there started to snowball. I started training in hip-hop and popping and house. And then the breaking arc did make a small return.
Yes.
But then I sprained both of my thumbs and wrists because look at how delicate these are. For breaking,
Yeah, for breaking?
Just breaking bones. Yeah, so that breaking arc did not last. They had me doing these swings and all of this stuff, and I was like, I just got here.
Yeah.
Happy to do it. I tried my best, but the injuries made me go, okay, pause.
Yeah.
I need to give this some proper time.
This is the money. This is where the money is at.
This is where the cash is at.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So then there was a training program at that studio that brought in a bunch of pioneers and OGs. So it was like Tash had come in for one of my first camps, and Sweepy Molina, and all of these just giant names. So I think I got really lucky.
Okay,
yeah.
so then?
And then that just got me into all of it. I dove head first. At the time, I was like, not being in a trauma dumpy way, but I was getting bullied pretty badly in the public school system. Shout out to the public school system. But it was a lot
Calgary?
of girl.
No, the public school system out here in Van City, the way I grew up, was way better.
Oh, that must have been nice.
Yeah.
Wish I was there.
I mean, I guess it depends on what school. But anyways, I'm sorry that happened to you.
You know, I think it was a character building arc for me, surely.
Surely.
I can take a hit like nobody's business. You know, I'm sturdy. But it was pretty intense. So there's a lot of violence that I was going through in like emotional, physical, whatever. And at the same time, my brother started getting cancer towards the later years. He's fine now. He's good. He's chilling. So we're good there. That's fine.
On that.
But it was a very harrowing time for me. So finding street styles at that moment was kind of perfect. So I found an outlet and community that I could connect to more or less and pour into, as opposed to like other things or pursuing different routes of how I'm going to escape this specific situation. So I think that, and knowing kind of like at the root and the core of what these cultures and styles are for, it just aligned, and diving headfirst into that was really easy because I needed it.
Yes.
It was a lifeline for me at the time. So from there on, I just frolicked the field and did all the training that I could get. Frolicked.
Voguing, did that feel like a natural not transition, but I guess like something new coming into your life in terms?
It's funny because I had the typical arc of not really understanding what the difference between voguing and whacking was when I was a lot younger. And as soon as that distinction became clear to me, I think I started to understand it a lot more. And I also was coming into queerness, if you will. The closet was glass doors, more or less. But eventually I accepted that I'm a bisexual. It's fine.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. But I think Ballroom was a big part of that journey into understanding what that looks like and how that looks for me. But also, at the same time, shout out to Mom, there are very traditional and like classic morals in regards to, you know, sexual identity and things like that, and also just liberation in general. So I think Ballroom was also a natural progression for me to get in touch with what that is for me as an Asian woman as well, and removing shame in that regard, and kind of celebrating my body, myself, and how I want to express that was kind of how Ballroom came into my life. Hands performance was way later. I was just straight Vogue femme because that's what was available to me at the time. And then I ran into Ralph when I was like 17, 18. And then I entered that house, and it's just kind of been like a slow burn, if you will.
How did that happen, entering the house when he started House of Gvasalia?
I kept going back and forth from Calgary and Vancouver. I think it's because the first BSDF I came, the city was just so magical to me. Because you come in the summer in Vancouver, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like real life.
Yeah.
So I kept coming back because I was like, oh, the dance scene here is so rich, especially like when you compare it to Calgary. Shout out to Calgary, but we have a smaller community, so it doesn't feel as grand. So I always kept coming back with Shandy and trying to do what we can, and I'd always run into Ralph anyway. I met Ralph in Calgary. He did a workshop. He was such a character at the time. He came in with his little bang, and I was like, this guy's got a little bang. He's got, you know.
I must listen to the person with the little bang.
He's very artistic. You know what I mean? I was like, he does art.
Yeah.
He's a voguer. You know, I was like, cool. But I kept running into him, and I'd keep going to Van Vogue Jam, and I think he saw something in me, and that really motivated me to keep being in touch with him and seeing him. And then he still believes in me like crazy to this day.
How about becoming the mother?
That was crazy too.
Yeah. How did that happen?
It's a good question. I think I had moved here. I was maybe freshly moved here. I think maybe just about a little over half a year I was here, and the conversation just came up where I think Ralph wanted to pass some leadership on to other folks in the house, and it just
What does that mean to you to be in a house, and what does that mean to you to be the mother of a house?
It all comes back to the root of what the culture is for, right? So ballroom has hierarchical structures because back in the day houses were for like the kids that got kicked out for being queer or just couldn't find homes after their parents don't want them. So it would be like a literal house. This is as far as I know. And then the mother, father, this hierarchical role came from the actual need for a chosen family and all of these things. And then it expands because obviously it's not like a biological family, so you can have overall mothers, overseers, and a bunch of different leadership roles. So I think in a community like Ballroom that has such a long legacy, leadership is important. So for that, it's kind of like being in a house to me, in many ways feels like a crew, but at the same time feels like family. It's kind of like I have a responsibility and a due diligence to them in how I represent them, but also in what I can offer to them and the community surrounding that, if that makes sense. So mothering to me is, the role I was kind of doing at the time was I run a organization in Calgary with Shandy actually that's called Vogue YYC right now. We're rebranding, but it's, the whole point of it is to nurture ballroom and ballroom folk and community in Alberta specifically. So it's kind of like to give and give and give and never receive is a very motherly role. And we know that when you're hosting events or you're an organization like director or anything, it's a thankless job. So when you're doing all of that already, I feel like it's a very motherly thing to do, to give and to nurture and to care for community around you. And then especially if you're in the house, then there's more perks, I suppose, that you gain from that. Yeah.
You know, I took your hand performance class
Yes,
2
you
weeks
did.
ago with Van Vogue Jam. It was super fun.
Thank you.
It was hard. Like I'm still, you know, like,
That's the first time I've taught a combo
you
in
know.
a very long time.
Anyway, I was playing around with that, and then what's cool was like as I was integrating the stuff that you had taught in that class and playing around with it, I was like dipping into whacking. Sometimes it was looking like locking, and I was like, whoa. How do I guess, like, is it bad that they mix when we're freestyling at the club, for example? Is that a faux pas? Or like, how do you stay true to sticking to one style and not let them influence each other?
Yeah.
When like all of this is vocabulary movement that then becomes embedded and embodied.
Yeah, that's a great question.
You know?
And I think this is not an original thought of mine by any means. I think a lot of other dancers think this as well. I think it's impossible to not have things influence each other. But I will say, I mean, do whatever you want in the club. Just groove.
Yeah.
Shake your butt. Have fun. But I feel like in terms of like, the root of it is, do you know that you're mixing? I think that's the biggest thing. It's just being aware and being cognizant of what you're doing and knowing what you're doing. Because I think the faux pas is when you think that they're the same.
Right.
Right. And you're like, no, these are the same. They're both gay. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, whatever. Right? That you can tell though. Because I think when, not to toot my horn, I guess I'm tooting my horn.
Yeah.
When I whack, a lot of my whacking is heavily, like, the hands performance is in there, whether I like it or not. You could even argue that, like, the training in house or hip hop and popping is in there too, or the locking that's in there, Campbell locking, sorry. Campbell locking that's in there too. It just has to be there because this is embodied knowledge. It's something that's muscle memory to you at that point. I don't think anyone's going to get mad at you for going when you're whacking necessarily, as long as you do it with the essence of what whacking is kind of supposed to be, if that makes sense. Every style has like a groove and a sauce to it. If you're not in that groove and in that sauce, you're probably not doing that style, and that's not a bad thing, but you just have to know.
Yes.
You cut yourself so short if you're like, oh, I'm not going to mix it. You limit yourself. And then when you limit it, it's kind of like, for what? If this style's meant to, the culture's meant for you to express and be liberated by something, why would you remove your liberation from yourself? It's just a matter of knowing. And you have to know. You can't just say you know. You have to actually know. Because people can tell if you don't know. You've seen it. You know what I mean? And that's okay to be there. We all start somewhere. I was there once before.
Yeah.
But you just have to know. So like if you have a breaking background and now you start whacking, why wouldn't you just use what your lived experience is into that movement? That's kind of the whole point.
I love that you put words into something that, like,
I wouldn't even be thinking about that because I'm dancing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the time to process all of that is not even happening
not
because
there.
I'm literally just in the moment.
And that's kind of, I think, how it should be. I think the due diligence of like learning the history and all of this stuff happens outside of the floor.
Yeah.
So don't be thinking about it too much on the floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's time to transition to the moment of onigiris.
Oh, snap.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, great. So we made onigiris, which are basically little Japanese sandwiches with the seaweed. Cheers. Now we're backtracking, full circle moment actually, into, you know, you studying the program that you just graduated from, coming from such an extensive dance background and dance vocabulary exploration. Like, how do you feel that came into play into your program and vice versa? Now, graduating, how do you hope that the stuff that you studied and learned moves into your arts practice as a dancer?
Gorgeous. That's actually a really fun question because I think throughout my 4 years here, that's been a focus of mine. So I think performance arts in a fine arts context and in a general context is quite lacking in terms of street styles or anything that's not relatively European, white-centered is kind of lacking in those fields, I think. Because I think there's big conversations on what's considered art enough in that fine arts, contemporary art context. And I think things are shifting, obviously. I'm not reinventing the wheel, nor am I like that person, right? But I think it's important that if you are in those spaces that you push for it. So a lot of my like fine arts practice includes voguing and whacking and also traditional Thai dance and the styles that I've trained in as a whole. And I think on like a contextual, if I speak in like art speak, joy as like rebellion or some sort of form of activism is something that I really like to play with, as opposed to like using trauma or things like that. It's okay if you do, but for me it's important in a way where trauma from these cultures isn't the selling point for institutions to bank off of and kind of really push forward, if that makes sense. I think it's easy to fall into that realm. So from the first year of this degree to the fourth year, I've always been like, I would do this video collage of traditional Thai dance and how that interacts with digital media or anything technology based. The intersections that I explore in my artistic practice. So art speak. Yeah. But I think it's important to have that representation there. If we are extending kind of like the definition of what art is, why is that not extended to people of color and marginalized groups and groups with less privilege? Why is it only afforded to high art individuals where this language is very inaccessible? Art speak is hard, and learning how to interpret and look at art pieces is also hard. If you don't have kind of like, they don't teach art history really in like elementary schools or anything like that. And I think knowing that broadens your worldview and how you problem solve and what critical thinking is to you switches.
Even just what art history would have been taught, which artists are those, you know?
Who's being championed? Why are they being championed? And I think Emily Carr's done a decent job at kind of asking those questions, but that's shout out to the professors. So it's like, I think having that has been very useful in how I'm navigating, how I interact with these cultures, what my positionality to all of this is, and also this has been very obvious to me from the get-go, but it just becomes more and more clear the more I like read a book. It's
Children, read books.
But it's like thinking about what you owe to cultures that aren't necessarily like yours per se. I think that's also a gray and like a conversation that's very ongoing, but like, are you giving back to communities that have, you know, you have either taken from or been so blessed by? Is it reciprocal? Is it one way? Do you just take? So in my degree, that's something I've been thinking about that kind of does this back and forth.
Wow, this 1 hour like literally went by so fast.
Very quickly.
I also love that there's so many moments where we said everything at the same time.
It's that Southeast Asian link.
Is it really?
It has to be.
This is how I'm going to choose to end the live stream. You're going to hold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Actually, real quick.
Yes.
Out of all of these, is there a significant memory of the one that you won that you're like,
I will never forget that performance. This was a moment for me. I know there's so many moments.
Well,
to choose
every
from.
time I win, it's a moment. So. No, I'm kidding. I would never say that with my whole chest. Honestly, it's funny. It's the smallest one.
Show us.
But
is it the one with the fish? Just realized that's a fish.
But strangely enough, I love Hans' performance, and all those moments are very dear for me. But something about this women's performance on this night,
Supernatural
I
Ball
didn't win the grand
2024.
prize, but there was something in me that evening that woke a side of me up that I did not know I had, and I have not gone back since. I wore this gorgeous little black catsuit. Yeah, I don't know, something about that ball. I wasn't even gonna walk, but the entrance was so fun, and after that ball, something in me unlocked that I'm so glad it did. I think I lost so much shame was just released from me, and I was never more myself after that for some reason.
I love that for you. And I can relate to understanding what that moment means.
Yeah, it's hard to...
It's an experience.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt like I really, I don't know, became a woman that night or something. I blossomed. But something about this evening was really crazy to me. So
I love
But yeah.
that. I'm so stoked that I got to finally have you here
Thank
to
you
get
for
to
having
know
me.
more of your story, your cultural upbringing, your journey, your trophies.
my trophy.
And you know where you're about to go, because 2025 is clear open. She's ready to be employed, fresh new
Absolutely.
graduate, and you're incredible, dude.
You're incredible too. Thank you for inviting me. I was kind of shocked. I was like, you want to hear from me?
My name is Kazi. This is Katria, aka Muse, aka
Calgary mother Katria Phothong-McKinnon, Basquiat, and more.
and more. You have been watching Van City Beats, Eats, and more.
There's always more.
There's always more.
More and more.